In reading your conversations about labeling and stigma and lived experience, a couple of things strike me. One is that you are developing a very robust community um, in which you are um, really sharing yourselves and supporting one another, um, and integrating what you're learning with um, your own life experience, um, and that creates a learning environment that is extremely rich. Um, in addition to that, in the community wall this past week, it was um, wonderful how many valuable resources you shared. Um, I must admit to being something of um, a video junkie, so I actually watched um, everything that you posted, and every one of them is useful. Um, so I feel uh, privileged to be connected with um, a group of social workers who, many of whom already are, and I think all of whom will be um, very valuable assets in the field. Um, so thank you for all of your experiences. Thank you for um, your generosity in bringing them into this learning experience, and thank you for supporting one another the way you are. Um, the conversation made me think about the Webster's definition of crazy, and there are a number of things listed, but the very first thing is full of cracks or flaws. And that seems to characterize the pervasive multisystemic stigma that surrounds mental illness that all of you addressed. Um, just last week, as a matter of fact, in Eureka, one powerful businessman called a community meeting for the expressed purpose of, quote, getting rid of the homeless in Eureka. What a wonderful example of yet another instance of, um, of blaming people who are experiencing um, a multi-systemic um, issue, um, and uh, and thinking that if you get rid of the people who are so obviously suffering, then the problem will go away. Um, we've seen that throughout the history of our country, haven't we? Um, so here we are. It's an ongoing theme in the master narrative of the United States, the narrative told by um, those who are in the greatest positions of power and privilege. And yet another iteration. One of the people who spoke at that community forum um, said, "Oh, isn't this interesting? That's just like 100 years ago when settlers went onto an island called Indian Island off the coast of Eureka and slaughtered all the women and children while the men were off hunting. Um, let's get rid of the Indians to get rid of the problem um, of competition for resources." Well, we could think of hundreds of examples of that, couldn't we? Um, Another thing I was thinking about is the idea that stigma and shame are two sides of the same coin, much as homophobia and internalized homophobia are two sides of the same coin. And one of the issues that some of the videos and writings point out is that it's that stigma that creates the shame that prevents many people who are suffering from seeking help, and prevents many people who are suffering from talking to other people about their suffering, even the people who they're closest to. We see this evident in, for example, in a lot of people that are coming back from wars with PTSD, and in general among people who have lived experience of illness that is really not acceptable in the eye of society. One of the discussion threads that you had is how important it is for us as helping professionals, and of course for everyone, to be role models and not allow teaching moments to pass us by when, for example, someone refers to someone else as the schizophrenic or as crazy. And that's critically important. And as some of you pointed out, we're all offenders in this regard. And it can be very difficult to catch ourselves in that precise moment when we can highlight that behavior for someone else in such a way that they see that how inappropriate it is. In your sharing of your own lived experience, I was very awestruck and respectful of the ways that you use this opportunity to come out, and of how responsive you were to one another, the degree to which you resonated with one another, and created an environment in which that was a positive rather than a negative experience. It is so important for people with lived experience to have the sense that there are some places where it's safe to be all of themselves. And as people repeatedly say, I am not my illness. But at the same time, when you have to hide your lived experience, it really creates a psychological isolation that is not helpful at all in the recovery process. So as you are emerging into creating that kind of environment for one another, I am watching very, very respectfully and with admiration. So that said, there are two forums for this week. The first is our standard kind of forum. The second is a forum in which you can just check in with one another about how you're doing at this point, week 5 in this program. How you're doing with your efforts to juggle school with all of your other responsibilities. Because just about at this point in the semester is when people may start to feel, oh my God, this is overwhelming. I can't do it. Or I'm going to fall behind. Or everybody else is doing better than I'm doing, etc. And just as I was saying a minute ago, it's very important to have an opportunity to share that, also that aspect of your experience, so that you can find out if you are in fact having the only one having that experience, or if you can share that experience and all become stronger and more confident as a result. So we'll do an experiment there and see what happens. So I look forward to your discussion this week, and as I said, I so much appreciate the depth and breadth of your conversations in the last couple of weeks.